Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. It's a great pleasure, and it was great to hear Malcolm say earlier that the report that we worked on together with GS1 last year has been the most downloaded report on the GS1 website. It's an effort that we strongly believe in the value, and it's good to see that the message is getting out there. So I worked on this project together with some colleagues, and what we wanted to do was really demonstrate the value that standards can have in healthcare, both for patient safety, for public health, as well as logistical efficiency and just cost savings. So we have quite a good relationship with GS1 that actually goes back for a very long time, even back in the 1970s when the UPC was being defined. We were able to participate with that as well. So our company strongly believes in this. We obviously serve many large businesses, and they profit greatly from the work that's being done to develop and use standards. So today I have two opportunities to speak to you. One just for a few minutes this morning, and then I'll talk more broadly later today about our work that we did in healthcare. And what I also wanted to do is take the opportunity to make it a little bit interactive. So the folks are handing out a questionnaire, and as we talk through our the presentation right now, there'll be a few questions, and I'll ask you just to fill out the questionnaire because there are some topics relevant to standards there. I will process the results, and we will discuss them later today in my second presentation. So we will come to these questions over the next few minutes. You don't have to fill them out ahead of time. So the reason that of course we're here and that standards is something important to talk about is our clients would also ask us maybe what's the value of standards, right? It's not intuitively it makes sense, but it's not always clear for a company who may need to make a lot of investment what the return would be, whether they should invest now or wait, and really what should happen in order to implement and use these standards. So these are questions that we may often get. If we look across sectors and even beyond the GS1 standards, obviously there's standards in many other areas. And we've worked with some of these organizations as well, and we think about what are the common themes of standards and why is this important. Firstly, of course, there's huge value to society of adopting standards, and we will get to this shortly. But the other important point also is that standards are not obvious. The more natural state is for individual companies to be creative and to define their own ways of doing things, and it really takes a lot of effort to arrive at a standard. Malcolm referred to having to travel across the world to agree just on a frequency, and this problem obviously comes up every time you want to agree on a standard. So there's a big coordination challenge, and there's many other challenges as well. But what we found is in the most successful cases where you do get to a situation where folks agree on a standard and implement and use it is because there's a belief and there's a clear business case that can be quantified. So people believe in the value, and that's what they'll take the chance to invest and put in the effort and time. And that's why it's so important that everyone is here and to take in what you learn and sort of become more convinced if needed, and sort of then go back to your day-to-day work and really make it happen and really sort of advance the cause and further develop and use the standards to understand what the priority use cases are, as I said. So what are the typical ways that we are going to use these standards, and what are the benefits that they will have. So let's turn to discuss some of these things in a bit more detail, and this is also the chance maybe to start filling out the questionnaire. If we have enough responses from different from people representing different sectors, we can split out the results later as well. So for the first question, perhaps you could just indicate if you're representing a specific sector on the questionnaire. You can indicate that if if you're not representing a single sector or a different one, you can just indicate the final option. And we'll use that for the other questions to correlate your responses to each sector. Now, standards in some sectors have been well defined. We know that for example, in retail and consumer goods, what is now the GS1 standards have been established for a long time. A lot of value has been realized. Much has been written about that. Of course, not in all sectors are standards as well advanced or as much value has been captured. So with this question here, it'd just be interesting to get the audience perspective on how much more potential there is from standardization in the various sectors. So, ranging from that you have just barely scratched the surface to having realized a decent amount, or maybe in certain sectors you feel that that standards have already delivered most of their value. Now, we spoke just a little bit about the challenges in getting to and using a standard, and this here lists some of the challenges, right, that we've seen and that our clients speak about. So what are some of these challenges? The first one we talked about is the coordination. You need to agree with many other companies, organizations, governments sometimes, on what this standard will be, and that is always quite tough because everyone has their own priorities, and that can just be a challenge to reach that agreement. In certain cases, standards are defined by governments or regulatory agencies, and they can be different from one country to the next. So then, for companies, it can be difficult to decide how to work with these standards, or they will want to wait to see if the regulatory requirements might change. The third reason here is that perhaps the value isn't clear. Maybe it's not clear whether upfront investment in time and effort will be paid back. So is there truly a business case if it's not required? Technical challenges. Standards are often based on existing technology, but it's still a difficult process of integrating them and making them work. So that's another challenge. Another challenge is the problem that standards are really helpful if everybody's using them. Before you reach that point, there has to be a group of folks that uses and invests in the standard first. So there's always a bit of time where you have to wait for the payback. And again, the default approach of some organizations or companies is to wait until everybody else has used the standard and then invest in it, because then they will get the benefit. But if everybody feels that way, nobody will do anything and nothing happens. And this is a real problem, right? This is what many clients talk to us about. Another challenge can be sometimes there are different standards and there are competing ones. It's not clear which one will be the winner, and I don't want to spend time and effort on a standard that ends up not being used. Finally, it can be complex within organizations. Just from my own personal work in the area, it requires often coordination between many different functions and groups within a company, and that is another type of coordination challenge. So here, in either in your experience or if you look ahead to think what it would take in your sector, please indicate what you think might be the biggest challenge. And we will review the results in the next session. Now, I'd like to close then on a more positive note. So two questions of where the value will be. And so across sectors, there's value for standards in many areas, right? Some of them have come up. It's creating efficiencies by getting rid of coordination challenges. It also levels the playing field. So big companies, small companies alike. If you're all using the same standards, the same methods, everyone has the same opportunity to participate. So it increases competition. For the same reason, it will lead to more innovation, because if I have confidence that what I'm developing on any one platform will be used by anyone, I have a bigger market, I'm more likely to try and innovate and develop new goods and services. It obviously reduces complexity. It can lead to growth for some of the reasons mentioned before. and then I can have new business models. I can be sure of quality and reliability of the services as well. So again, similar as before, in your sector, if you would just take a thought and think where in your sector is the biggest value from standards coming from, if you had to pick one. And then a different way of looking at value is then in which area of your sector. So is it in supply chain and distribution? Is it in the transactions that are occurring? Is it in service operations, anything that's not manufacturing related? Is it in product development? Again, where do you think the most value will be? So I'm very curious to see the results a little bit later today when I'll speak more about our work in healthcare. We will review the results and talk about the differences if we see them between sectors and what happens in healthcare. So again, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to addressing you later again, and looking forward to a good meeting today.